The annual Morgan Family Tech Showcase was in full swing at my parents' Silicon Valley mansion. A tradition where my tech executive father paraded his children's achievements before his Silicon Valley peers. My siblings' sleek presentations about AI and blockchain filled the home theater's massive screen, while I sat quietly in the back clutching my laptop. "And now," Dad announced, his voice carrying that familiar tone of apology, "my youngest Samantha would like to share something." The audience of tech veterans shifted uncomfortably. They remembered last year's disaster, when I tried to explain my quantum computing theory. My brother James, now a prominent VP at Google, had barely contained his laughter. I connected my laptop to the projector, my hands steady despite the murmurs. The screen filled with complex schematics. My patent-pending quantum encryption algorithm. "Not this again," my sister Elizabeth sighed from her front row seat, her Tesla executive badge gleaming. "Dad, why do we have to humor these hobby projects?" I began my presentation. "The future of data security lies in quantum-resistant encryption. My algorithm." "Sweetie," Mom interrupted, her voice dripping with fake concern, "wouldn't you rather show everyone your new social media app? Something simpler?" The audience chuckled. I caught sight of several prominent CEOs exchanging knowing looks. My father's face reddened, not with anger at them but embarrassment at me. "The patent is pending," I continued, "and early tests show." "Patents?" James laughed openly now. "Sam, leave the real tech to professionals. You're wasting time on inventions nobody wants." Dad stepped forward, clearly ready to end my presentation. "Perhaps we should move on to the networking portion." My phone buzzed. Another email from Apple's acquisition team, their third this week. I ignored it, just as I'd ignored Google's offers and Microsoft's inquiries. They didn't understand what they were really bidding on. "The algorithm uses quantum entanglement principles too." I tried again. "Quantum entanglement?" Elizabeth snorted. "You can barely entangle your shoelaces. Remember when you dropped out of MIT? What they didn't know was that I'd dropped out because the university wanted partial rights to my research. Their standard policy would have given them 40% ownership of any patents developed using their resources. I couldn't risk it, not with what I'd discovered. "This is embarrassing," James whispered loudly to a group of VCs. "She's been tinkering with this invention for years. Complete waste of time." My phone buzzed again. Apple CEO this time, not just the acquisition team. The subject line read, "Final offer, $7 billion. Dad saw me check my phone and misinterpreted completely. "Samantha, put your phone away. Show some respect to our guest. These people run billion-dollar companies." "I know," I said quietly, looking at the new email. "That's why they keep trying to buy my patent." "Buy your..." James started laughing again. "Who would want to buy your little hobby project?" Just then, every phone in the room buzzed simultaneously. The breaking news alert made my father drop his presentation remote. "Major security breach. Global banking systems compromised. Quantum computing attack renders current encryption obsolete." I stood up straighter, clicking to my final slide. As I was saying, my quantum-resistant encryption algorithm. The room fell silent as more alerts flooded in. My phone lit up with another email from Apple CEO. "Name your price. The banking system needs this now." Dad's hand shook as he read the alerts. James's smug smile vanished as his Google badge suddenly felt very heavy. Elizabeth's Tesla phone started ringing, probably their security team realizing what was at stake. I quietly packed up my laptop. I should take this call. It seems some people are interested in my little hobby after all. The door closed behind me as chaos erupted in the theater. Through the glass, I could see tech titans scrambling to contact their security teams, while my family stood frozen, finally realizing what they'd been mocking all these years. My phone buzzed one more time. Microsoft entering bidding war, starting at $10 billion. I smiled. They still didn't understand. This wasn't about money. This was about changing the future of digital security forever. And I was just getting started. The next morning, my parents' home theater had transformed into an impromptu war room. Tech giants' representatives filled every seat, their urgency palpable in the air. My father, usually the dominant figure in any tech gathering, stood awkwardly to the side as CEOs he'd once bragged about playing golf with now focused entirely on me. "Miss Morgan," Apple CEO leaned forward, We've raised our offer to $12 billion. The papers can be signed immediately. $15 billion, Google's representative countered. James, standing behind his boss, looked like he might faint. Plus a director position on our quantum computing division. I sat quietly, my laptop open to a secure channel where more offers kept flooding in. The global banking crisis had only worsened overnight. My quantum-resistant encryption wasn't just valuable anymore. It was essential. $18 billion, Microsoft CEO announced, entering the room. Full autonomy, your own research division, whatever resources you need. Elizabeth grabbed my arm during a brief break. Sammy, you have to take one of these offers. Do you understand how much money that is? I gently removed her hand. Actually, I do. I also understand what this technology is really worth. Dad approached, his face a mix of confusion and dawning realization. Sweetheart, all these years, what exactly have you been working on? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a new alert. Breaking. Second wave of quantum attacks targeting government systems. Global infrastructure at risk. The room erupted again. The bidding reached $25 billion. Then $30 billion. My siblings watched in stunned silence as their failed sister became the most sought-after person in tech. Perhaps, I said, standing up, we should discuss what you're really bidding on. I connected my laptop to the projector. The same one that had displayed my hobby project just yesterday. But this time I showed them the full scope of my work. This isn't just an encryption algorithm, I explained, bringing up complex diagrams. It's a complete quantum security framework. While everyone was focused on building quantum computers, I was building the shield against them. The Microsoft CEO's eyes widened. You've been planning for this. Since MIT, I nodded. That's why I dropped out. The university wanted partial ownership. I couldn't let this be controlled by any single entity. But surely, James interrupted, his Google badge now tucked away, you'll sell to someone? I pulled up another screen. Articles I'd prepared years ago. No, I'm not selling. I'm launching. The room fell silent as they read the headlines I'd been saving. Morgan Quantum Security goes public. Revolutionary security framework released as open source. Former tech giant stocks plummet as new security standard emerges. You see, I continued, this technology is too important for corporate control. It needs to be accessible to everyone, not just the highest bidder. But the money, Elizabeth whispered, is nothing compared to the impact, I finished. Besides, the implementation licenses and consulting contracts will be worth far more than your offers. Dad sank into a chair. My daughter, you're going to change everything. Already have, I replied as my phone displayed another alert. Morgan Quantum Security announces global implementation framework, estimated value, $100 billion plus. The tech giant's representatives huddled with their teams, realizing their acquisition strategies were useless. They weren't just bidding on a patent anymore. They were witnessing the birth of a new tech empire. Now, I said, closing my laptop, shall we discuss implementation partnerships? My consulting fees start at $50 million per quarter. James and Elizabeth exchanged glances as their company's representatives rushed to be first in line. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and their little sister's hobby had just reshaped the entire tech landscape. My phone buzzed one final time. World Bank endorses Morgan Quantum Security as new global standard. I smiled. The real work was just beginning. 6 months later, I stood at the podium of the World Technology Summit, no longer the quiet presence at the back of family gatherings. The audience was filled with the same tech leaders who had once dismissed my hobby. Now they were all clients. Morgan Quantum Security has successfully protected over $4 trillion in global transactions, I announced, watching my family in the front row. Today we're announcing our next phase. The screens behind me lit up with our latest innovation. Dad clutched his conference program, where my face graced the cover with the headline, Samantha Morgan, the woman who saved the digital world. Our open-source framework has been implemented by 157 countries, I continued. The consulting division has grown to 5,000 specialists. And our market cap, I paused, enjoying the tension, just crossed $300 billion. James shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He'd left Google last month, They downsized after losing market share to my company. Elizabeth's Tesla badge was gone too. She'd been requesting a job interview with my HR department for weeks. But numbers aren't what matters, I said, clicking to my final slide. What matters is security, democracy, freedom of information. That's why I'm announcing the Morgan Foundation for Digital Rights. The audience murmured as I revealed the details. $50 billion in funding dedicated to ensuring digital security remained a human right, not a corporate commodity. After the presentation, my family gathered in my private conference room, a far cry from their home theater where they'd mocked my work. I still don't understand, Mom said, touching the wall of patents that lined the room. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked, pulling up the video from last year's family showcase. Their laughter at my silly patent echoed through the room. We were wrong, Dad admitted, looking older than I'd ever seen him. All those years. Actually, I interrupted, you were right about one thing. I was wasting time on inventions, just not in the way you thought. I was wasting time trying to prove myself to people who couldn't see the future. My assistant entered with urgent news. Ma'am, the EU just unanimously approved the Morgan Protocol as their official security standard. Asia's following suit within the hour. James stood up straighter. About that job application I sent. HR handles all applications, I replied coolly. Even family has to go through proper channels. Though I hear the entry-level positions in our quantum computing division are quite educational. Elizabeth winced. Those were the same words she'd used when suggesting I take a basic coding course last year. The Morgan Foundation's first initiative launches next week, I continued. We're funding technology education for underestimated innovators. People whose families might not believe in them. People who might be working on the next world-changing patent in their bedroom while others laugh. Dad looked at his shoes. Samantha, we save it, I said, but not unkindly. The past is done. But the future. I gestured to the global security map on my wall, showing Morgan Quantum Security's worldwide implementation. The future is what I've been trying to show you all along. My phone buzzed with another alert. Morgan Quantum Security valuation hits $400 billion, founder becomes world's youngest tech leader. Now, I said, gathering my things, I have a board meeting to attend. We're discussing quantum telecommunications next. Unless anyone wants to tell me that's another silly hobby. The room stayed silent. Through the windows of my headquarters, a building that dwarfed our family home, I could see my company's logo reflecting off neighboring skyscrapers. The same logo that was now on government buildings worldwide. Oh, and Dad. I paused at the door. Remember when you said nobody would want to buy my little hobby project? The latest acquisition offer came in this morning. $200 billion. I declined. But why? He stammered. I smiled, thinking of that first patent, the years of mockery, the countless family dinners where they'd dismissed my work. Because some things are worth more than money, I replied. Some things are worth building an empire for. As I walked to my boardroom, passing walls lined with global awards and revolutionary patents, I heard my sister whisper, "Our little Sammy owns the future." She was wrong about one thing though. I didn't own the future. I'd invented it.